I'm good. How are you, Celine?
Doing great. It's been a long day and I'm just home, so I'm finally able to have a little wine and a chat with you.
Hey, same here. It's Wednesday.
Cheers.
Wednesday or Tuesday. I have no idea. I've lost track.
That's what happens. It's been locked down, so now that everything's open again, we're still in lockdown mode and we don't know which day is which. We just get on by.
I know, like, especially with homeschooling. I'm homeschooling 2 kids, so I completely lose track. I don't know how teachers are able to do it. All I know is I tip my hat and kudos to them because, my God, they're heroes.
I'm a young mom myself. I just had a baby last year, as you know, so being with Savannah is also taking a lot of my time, but you have to manage. I find it really hard to get fresh food and stuff lately, so I try to order online. I try to get stuff delivered to me as well. So I don't know how you do it.
Well, I'm a bit old school, so I can't order online. I still don't have an Amazon Prime account. So I still go to Rustans, I still go to Landmark, I still go to Palenque, but I'm completely covered head to toe. I even have a PPE outfit. So I am very careful. And once I touch something on the shelf, I put it right away. I'm not the type to look and read. It's really hard for me to buy wines because usually you like to look at the label, you see where it's from, you look at the back, but now it's just you have to be really careful and you really have to pick your wines properly. But I still buy my wines in the store, definitely. How about you, Selena?
Careful enough. Yes, so I do buy online. I like shopping for wine online because it's easier, it gets shipped to you right away. I do like holding a bottle as well. It's very different when you're in the shop and you're browsing and having the bottle in your hand. The shape of the bottle also says a lot about it. I mean, it calls at you, and seeing it online is tricky, so it becomes difficult for me as well to pick. But I've learned that, you have to be a bit more safe nowadays, and it's hard. My child's really young, so I'm just a bit more careful.
Oh, that's good. So what wine are you drinking tonight? How did you pick it?
I'm drinking an Italian wine, actually. I picked it because I honestly haven't tried it before, so it's the first time I'm trying it with you. And it's a Il Pumo Salise Salentino. It's a DOP as well, so I'll show you that there.
Oh,
It's
nice.
a pretty bottle. Simple. It calls a bit towards the old world look, but it's still quite modern as it kept its label simple. So I liked it. I thought it was perfect for tonight.
Oh, that's good. Well, for me, I picked, the bottle's finished because we had it for dinner. A Chateau de Lope Saint Emilion. That's how I started to learn to love wine was through my parents, and they always had a Saint Emilion bottle. So I grew up with Saint Emilion, and I thought wouldn't it be wonderful to start our first podcast with a Saint Emilion wine from Terry's Selection in Salcedo Village.
Great choice. Oh my gosh, I'm almost jealous, but I would make you jealous with the wine I'm having because it's everything and more I expected from it. I mean,
okay.
I'll pour myself a little bit, but I'll show you the color. It's really a rich ruby red. So I really like the color. I don't know if you can see it there.
I can definitely see the color, and I can definitely see the outline. It has this rich ruby lining, and I love that. It looks really jammy to me, and I love red thick jam.
It is very jammy.
Yeah, so I can really see it. I just
by the color. Yes, it does have a bit of garnet.
Yeah, mine's a deep ruby. It's a 2014. So what year is yours?
I'm drinking 2016, and usually Italian wines aren't so young. They like to age their wines, but this one is, I think, best enjoyed when it's young because it's, again, very fruity. I even go towards jammy, as you mentioned. It's much more cherry and much more, I'd say, mûr. What's mûr in English? Blackberry. Dark blackberry. Yes. So very strong berry.
I remember when I picked this wine, I was having it for dinner. I kept saying mûr, 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 mûr. Matt was like, what is that? I was like, blackberry. There you go.
Right. Yeah, they just grow on the side of the road in Europe, so they're really easy to pick. Everybody knows it.
My kids would just come out with red around their face, and I'm just like, what's going on? They're like, oh, we eat berries. I'm like, oh my God.
How about the bouquet? How is it with your bouquet?
Oh, mine is definitely, when I first opened it up, it was straight leather. And I'm not very much into leather wines. I always believe if it's a Saint Emilion and if it's before 2015, I love to always like leave it out for 15 minutes in the bottle or in a decanter just to air it out. And when I finally smelled it after 15 minutes, I was like, okay, I can definitely drink this wine. It had like cherries. It had a little bit of tobacco in the back of my throat. It was very like a rich, what I always imagined Saint Emilion. It's like an ancient wine in a bottle. So I really like that. Usually 2014 wasn't a good year for them, but I don't know, I really enjoyed this one.
Well, we can talk about using decanters and how letting your wine breathe is beneficial to your whole wine experience in another podcast.
Oh, in another
That's
segment.
A great topic. Yeah, we should make more.
Definitely. I know. I actually, for my birthday, I got a Chateauneuf du Pape 1989. So I can't wait to decant that properly, and just I can even show you guys a video of it.
But that brings me to ask you, how do you know which wine to use for which occasion? Like which one to pick?
So I always go for a budget to what occasion links to. If it's just me having a rough day, I go for like the cheaper range of wines, and usually something easy, something I don't need to pair, something that is a no-brainer. So I usually always go cava or a white or rosé. Reds usually for me, I have to kind of think and what to pair it with. Also here in the Philippines, it's a bit too hot sometimes, so I need something a bit lighter. But if it's a business, I always go for red. I don't know, usually in a business meeting, and it's usually nighttime, you're eating dinner and you usually have steak, lamb, so I always go for red. So it depends on the budget, but I always tell people, stick to what your budget, stick to what you are you willing to spend on a bottle. You know, you don't have to buy your first wine at 3,000 pesos. There's really great bottles at 500 to 800 pesos. So
it's a really great tip. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned budget, because I think that's what's on everyone's mind when they first pick a red wine or a white wine. I think first, before choosing the color of the wine you want, they'll think first of budget. And I think when you're splurging a little, it's a gift for somebody or it's for a special occasion, you definitely will start going towards 1,000 pesos to 1,500, and maybe even more if you're going for sparkling or champagne. But on a simple day when it's just you and me or a boyfriend or your husband, or you're with friends and girlfriends and you really just want to drink wine because you want to talk it out and have a good time, then definitely you'll go for something between 500 and 1,000. And I think that's fair to consider as well, that when you're choosing wine.
And that's what I think, even like in a restaurant. Like I was just at Antonio's, and Antonio's has a great range of wines. I don't always have to pick the most expensive bottle. I actually was really happy with his Marlboro Pinot Noir, which was 1,200 for a restaurant at Antonio's. It was really good. So for me, don't pick on price range, pick on what you feel comfortable spending on. Because sometimes I experienced this before. I would pick a 5,000 peso bottle, and this was beginning at my wine journey. And I didn't like it because I didn't understand the wine. I didn't reach to that point of having this vast wine tasting notes. It was too much tar, and at that time I was, when you're very young, you want something really sweet and easygoing. Tar was a bit too complex for me. I was 21 years old when I tried that. So
to me, definitely.
Yeah, you have to really like build into your budget, as you said, and also the wine pairing notes. When you read in the back labels, not a lot of Filipinos know blackcurrant or gooseberries. So I always like to see tasting notes that I see peach, like notes that I'm used to, green apple. Even when I do wine tasting courses, I always say, it tastes like mangosteen, because some wines for me actually taste
mangosteen. They do. The tannins sometimes have that feeling.
And I actually tasted the skin of mangosteen. So yeah, how about for you? When it comes to tasting notes, what do you feel comfortable with? Especially living in Davao, I think you have more of a great variety of fruits up from Manila.
I don't know. Maybe my wine tastes like chicharon, durian.
Durian.
Would be weird. But no, I always tell people that are starting their wine journey, and I really hope this podcast is made for people who want to start their wine journey. I mean, we're just two girlfriends and we started on our own journeys when we were young, and we were lucky to be able to travel and taste wine. But what about if you're stuck here or your work, and you can still experience the many ranges of flavor and personalities that each region of wine has? And I think by really trying more, you really define what you really like.
And it also links to time and weather. So here in the Philippines, when I was first experiencing wine, they always served it at room temperature because that's what the label says. But room temperature is Europe cold weather, 16 degrees. So it's so important in how you chill your wines, and we can do another podcast on that. But when I say about the second way of picking out your wine, so you're a newbie coming into the store, you don't know what to get, always see how the weather is outside. Definitely, if it's really hot, especially if you're in the beach in Davao or you're in mid-heat traffic of Manila, have a rosé, whites. But if you're in an air-conditioned place and you're, candlelight dinner, a red would be really nice as well. So
yeah, exactly. Red wine can get really, really warm at the beach. I mean, There were days where I was like, I shouldn't be drinking red wine. It's really way too hot right now to have red wine. Or even on a boat, it could give you a bit of a headache because it really heats up your body. Let's not complicate ourselves. And I think when you're trying wine, you have to keep things simple and really try and describe it and enjoy it the way you can, and relate it to things that are relatable to what you've already tried. And that's how you started. I mean, a lot of people are afraid to go to wine tastings or have wine with professionals because they feel intimidated. They don't know how to hold the glass. They don't know how to pour or maybe open a bottle. They're afraid of getting humiliated, or they're afraid of not knowing what notes people are talking about. And I just want to be very open to our watchers and listeners. When you do try your wines and when you do start your journey, don't be afraid to join the professionals or other people, because you can learn from each other and use your own words. Try, comparing it to things you already know, foods that you've already tried. Don't be worried about not knowing what a plum or peach tastes like. And I'm talking about peaches, not from the can, but definitely trying to use your own experience to really enrich your own further experience with wine. So I think, like many things, memory is very closely linked to our taste buds and smell. And so if we use things that we already know, then we can easily find those notes, when you smell your wine after swirling it so you can open up the bouquet. You really want to use things that you know. And actually, I'm smelling the mangosteen you mentioned from earlier, for example, because you brought it up, and I can see, I can see how the red fruit comes out, and mangosteen is a sour red fruit, and there's definitely a bit of sour notes in here. Just to be confident and just keep trying. I mean, you're only as good as your last glass of wine, aren't you?
One funny story, for newbies who are too scared to go to a wine tasting. I went to a wine tasting for Australian wines, and there were all the Australians there, and they were drinking, and they knew the vineyard. They even knew the chateau owner or the winemakers. And the first thing when I opened, it was a Riesling. I was like, I just smell petrol. It's like walking to Petron station and people are pumping gas, and that's what I smelled. And I really thought I was being the odd girl out, but the winemaker looked at me and he goes, that's actually one of our secret wine tasting notes. You got it. And I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. So you just never know. You just have to be really open. Some people will be like, yeah, I smell that. To me, wine is such a personal journey. It's something that you grow into and you discover on your own. It's good to read labels. It's great to look into or read up a lot on decanter.com. I love reading about wines and New World wines. But for me, it depends on my taste. I won't get a Beaujolais because I'm just not into it. And it's okay.
Right. But if someone doesn't have as much passion as you do clearly for wine, and someone who really just wants to get to know wines a bit more and sound a bit more interesting and just open up a conversation, because let's be honest, opening a bottle of wine at dinner time is really one of the best moments of the dinner, and it's a conversation starter. We'll let loose. I mean, wine is what brings people together as well, and that's what I love about wine and why I decided to continue much further in my studies. But other people might just stop there and might just be happy to enjoy it and drink it with people they love. So I really believe wine is for sharing, and that people should open a bottle with someone else and try not to hog it all for themselves. Although we all know we do sometimes, but let's not admit that.
It's a house secret. There's house wines and there's house secrets. That's one of our house secrets. I hog the wine. But going into that, the other factor I'm thinking about is food pairings, simple food pairings that would be easier for a newbie. You know, they always do the myth, white to seafood or easy, and red to red meats and everything. But I've discovered you can pair a lot of types of wines. But for a newbie, what type of hints or tips would you give to picking out wines comparing to food?
There is some sense into the classic suggestions of getting white wine with seafood and maybe some of the whiter meats, like even roast pork loin or roast chicken, very lightly seasoned, or a great salad. I mean, honestly, a great salad that's crisp and light is great with white wine. But some light red wines are also good for them, you know? So it really depends on your taste buds. Again, it's all about exploring an adventure, and that's why we call wine tasting the beginning of an adventure. You have to start with one sip, and one sip will lead to another. And the more you drink different wines, I'm not talking about volume here, I'm talking about different kinds. The more you drink, the more you'll figure out what you like and how to recommend as well. Because of course, when people know that you drink, they'll always call you and ask you for suggestions and tips. So we have our Facebook page as well and Instagram. And at the end of this video, you're going to get all our contact details. So don't be afraid to send us a message. Right, Danny?
Oh, yes. I actually would love to do a freakiest wine taste pairings you did. And I think we should definitely do that, because I've actually discovered a lot of wicked wine pairing with food that would be like, what? No way. But it really works. So definitely keep in tune and subscribe to us through the grapevine to learn more wine pairings and food notes. Yes.
So thank you. I'll say bye to everyone. That was a great first podcast. I'll be even confident enough, if I may go and be so bold, to tell everyone that if we do get any emails or questions and find one interesting enough, you might be invited to be a guest on one of our future podcasts, right?
Oh, yes. And please subscribe and share, and just be in the community of Through the Grapevine and talk about the best thing in life, which is having a little wine and a little chat.
I love that. Cheers to you, Danny, and cheers to everyone. Cheers. Good night.